Welcome to the channel. Hit subscribe and dive into stories that'll stay with you long after the video ends. Let's begin. It was almost midnight when Clara felt something hard beneath her pillow. She'd been tossing for hours, her mind circling the same thoughts like restless birds' bills, her sister's cold silence, her mother's house sitting empty since the funeral. She turned her head, searching for the cooler side of the pillow, and her fingers brushed against paper. Not smooth, but rough, folded. For a moment she froze. The room was quiet except for the clock ticking on the dresser. She sat up slowly, her eyes adjusting to the thin blue light from the street lamp outside. Her hand slid under the pillow, and there it was, a single envelope, cream-colored, a little wrinkled, her name written in soft ink. Clara, her chest tightened. She whispered to no one, "Who put this here?" The letter wasn't there that morning. She was sure of it. She hadn't changed the sheets, hadn't moved the pillows, and she lived alone now, or at least she thought she did. Her hands trembled slightly as she broke the seal. The paper smelled faintly of lavender. Her mother used to keep lavender sachets in every drawer, in every closet, as if scent alone could keep sorrow away. The handwriting, it was familiar, but it couldn't be. "My dearest Clara," it began, "if you are reading this, it means you've stayed. I prayed you would, though I also prayed you'd run. There are things you were never meant to see. Things I hid not from you but for you." Clara's breath hitched. The air in the room suddenly felt thinner. "You will find the rest where the river bends, beneath the oak that leans toward the water. Don't come alone. And when you find it, don't forgive me until you've read everything. No signature. Just a single pressed petal tucked inside, brittle, violet, almost dust." Clara sat still for a long moment, the letter trembling in her hands. Her mother's words, if they were her mother's, seemed to hum through her body like a quiet electric current. The river, the oak, she hadn't been there since she was a child. That bend in the river had been their secret spot, where her mother taught her to skip stones, where her father carved their initials before leaving for good. It didn't make sense. Her mother had been gone 6 months, and yet this letter was new, the ink sharp, the paper unscented by time. She stood, her bare feet touching the cool wooden floor. A breeze whispered through the half-open window, stirring the curtains. Clara turned in a slow circle, scanning the shadows. Nothing moved, but the stillness had changed. She folded the letter back into the envelope, her pulse racing. Someone had been in her house. The thought came sharp and sudden, cutting through the disbelief. Someone who knew her handwriting, her memories, someone who wanted her to remember that place. Outside, the wind rose, rustling the branches. Clara reached to close the window, then stopped. Across the street, behind the glass of the old florist's shop, a faint light flickered on, and for just a second she thought she saw a figure standing there watching her. By morning, the letter felt like something she'd dreamed, until she saw it again on her nightstand, right where she'd left it. The envelope looked smaller in daylight, harmless, almost ordinary. But Clara couldn't shake the weight in her chest. Every word in that letter had the gravity of a secret too long buried. She poured herself coffee she didn't drink. The morning light stretched long fingers across the kitchen table, touching the stack of unpaid bills, the half-open notebook of things she kept meaning to finish. Her phone buzzed. Maya, her sister. Clara hesitated before answering. They hadn't spoken properly since the funeral, only exchanged clipped messages about estate paperwork. Nothing about grief or memory, or how quiet the house felt without their mother's voice. She swiped to answer. Maya, a pause, then her sister's voice, cool, cautious. "You're up early. I didn't sleep much." Still at Mom's house. Clara's eyes drifted toward the hallway. The framed family photo on the wall, all three of them smiling beside that same riverbank, seemed to look back at her differently now. "Yeah," she said softly, "for now." Something in her tone must have changed because Maya's voice sharpened. "What happened?" Clara almost said it. About the letter, about the handwriting, about the strange figure she thought she'd seen outside. But the words stuck in her throat. Instead she said, "Do you remember the oak by the river?" A beat of silence, then a small exhale on the other end. "Of course I do. Why?" "Nothing, just thinking." "Don't," Maya said quickly. "There's nothing out there worth digging up." The call ended soon after, but the way Maya said it, too quick, too certain, settled uneasily in Clara's mind. By noon she was driving. The road to the river had barely changed. Same cracked pavement, same wild tangle of honeysuckle climbing the fences. The air grew cooler as she got closer, thick with the scent of damp earth and the faint metallic tang of water. When she reached the bend, she parked beside the dirt path and stepped out. The sound of rushing water filled her ears. It was louder than she remembered, almost urgent. She followed the trail down through the trees until she saw it, the oak, leaning toward the river as if bowing to something unseen. The bark was gnarled, scarred by initials carved long ago. Her fingertips found them M+C. Her mother's laugh flickered in her memory, a hand guiding hers to hold the knife steady. "There. Now we'll always be here," her mother had said. Clara knelt beside the roots, brushing away leaves and dirt. Nothing. Then something caught the light. Half buried beneath the roots, a small tin box, rusted, dented, but still closed. Her heartbeat quickened. She dug it out carefully, wiping the mud away with her sleeve. The lid resisted at first, then gave with a soft snap. Inside, a folded stack of letters, dozens of them, each one sealed with the same cream paper and lavender scent, each one addressed not to her but to Maya. A shadow passed over the water. Clara looked up, startled. Someone was standing across the riverbank, still, watching her. And even at that distance, she could have sworn it was her mother's silhouette. The river went utterly still. For a breath, Clara forgot how to move. The shape across the water stood half in the sun, half in shadow, familiar in posture, in the gentle tilt of the head. Then, as quickly as it appeared, it was gone. A blink, a shimmer of light on the water, no one there, but the image clung to her, her mother's outline, unmistakable. The same cardigan, the same stance. Clara felt her throat tighten. She knelt back down, staring at the tin box as if it could explain everything. The letters inside were carefully stacked, their edges soft with age. She counted, 12, one for every month since the funeral. Her fingers hovered over the first envelope. To Maya, January, the handwriting again, flowing, certain, and undeniably her mother's. She unfolded it carefully, her heart pounding. "My Maya," the letter began, "if I could speak to you again, I'd ask you to listen this time. I'd tell you that what happened wasn't a choice I made easily. I stayed silent to protect you both, though it broke me to do so." The words blurred as Clara's eyes filled. "He didn't drown, Maya. He left because I asked him to, because he found out what I'd done." Clara's pulse stumbled. Her father. Everyone had said he drowned in the river when she was 9, that his body was never found. Her mother had never spoken of it after that. But now Clara dug through the box, scanning the envelopes for any clue, any mention of her name. Every letter, every single one, was addressed to Maya. She whispered to the trees, to the empty air, why her, why only her? The wind stirred the branches, scattering a few brown leaves across the river. She took another letter. "April. He came back once, you know, after they said he was gone. I met him here under the oak. He looked different, thinner, desperate. He wanted to see you both, but I couldn't let him, not after what he'd found. I told him to leave again, to stay gone for your sakes." Clara dropped the letter. It landed in the dirt like something fragile breaking. Her hands were shaking now. The box, the letters, the river, all blurred together. She turned toward her car, ready to leave, but a sound froze her midstep. A twig snapping behind her. Slowly she turned. There, half hidden among the trees, someone was moving closer, careful, measured. "Maya," she called out, though she wasn't sure why. No answer. The figure stepped into a shaft of light. It was Maya, hair pulled back, face pale, eyes wide with something unreadable. Clara exhaled, relief and confusion tangled. "Maya, you got my message. I didn't think." Maya's voice cut through hers, sharp and trembling. "You shouldn't have come here, Clara. What are you talking about?" Maya's gaze dropped to the tin box in Clara's hands. Then she whispered, "You weren't supposed to find those." For a long moment, neither of them moved. The wind sighed through the branches, carrying the faint scent of riverweed and rain. Clara clutched the box tighter. "You knew about this?" Maya's eyes flickered, guilt, fear, something older. "I told her to destroy them." "You told Mom?" Maya nodded once, slow. "She showed me the first one before she died. I thought it was her grief talking. She said she'd been writing him letters every month, letters she'd never send." Clara frowned. "Him who?" "Our father," Maya whispered. "He wasn't dead, Clara." The world seemed to tilt. The rushing water behind them grew louder, as if the river itself objected to the sound of it. "You're lying," Clara said. "Mom said, everyone said. She lied to both of us." Maya's voice cracked. "He disappeared because of what she did. He tried to take you away that night. I stopped him." The air thickened. "What do you mean you stopped him?" Maya's eyes filled with tears, but her shoulders stayed rigid. He came to the house. I heard them fighting. He wanted to tell you everything about the money, the affair, about Mom's plan to start over somewhere else. I was 14, I didn't understand, but I knew if he took you, Mom would never recover, so I called the police. Clara's stomach turned cold. They said there was a man near the river that night. He fell in and they never found him. Maya nodded. He didn't fall, he ran. Mom said we had to let the world believe he was gone. For our safety, she said, for yours. The sound of the water roared in Clara's ears. She backed away a step. You both lied to me. My whole life you let me think he died out there. He would have come back for you, Maya said quietly. He tried. She sent him away again. She couldn't live with what she'd done, so she wrote the letters instead. Then why hide them from me? Because you were her favorite, Maya said softly, her voice trembling. She didn't want you to know what we did. Clara's voice dropped to a whisper. What you did. The silence after that was long, heavy, almost unbearable. Maya's eyes drifted toward the riverbank. When she died, I came back here. I buried the box. I thought it would end there, but then you stayed at the house and she swallowed hard. I thought if you found it, maybe you'd understand her, maybe you'd forgive us. Clara shook her head. You put that letter under my pillow. Maya didn't answer. The truth settled in between them like fog, thick, suffocating, impossible to ignore. Clara's voice cracked. You wanted me to come here. Maya stepped forward, her expression softening. I didn't know you'd open them. I wanted to see if you'd remember her the way I did. Thunder rolled in the distance, deep and low. The air smelled like rain and endings. Then softly Maya said, There's one more letter. You haven't read it yet. Clara stared at her. What are you talking about? Maya pointed to the bottom of the tin box. It's for you. Clara's fingers moved almost on their own. Beneath the stack of lavender-scented envelopes, something was hidden, one final letter sealed in plain white. No name on the front, just a faint smudge of ink as if a tear had fallen there once. Her hands trembled as she lifted it. Maya stood a few paces away, silent, eyes fixed on the water. Clara tore it open. The paper inside was thinner than the others, the handwriting smaller, quieter somehow. My Clara, it began, if you've come this far, I owe you more than the truth, I owe you my forgiveness. I've spent years writing to Maya because she carried what I couldn't. The night your father left, I told her to keep you safe, no matter what that meant. She did, even when it cost her peace. Clara's throat tightened. She glanced up at her sister, but Maya's face remained turned away. The letter continued. You were too young to understand what your father had done. He wasn't cruel, only lost. He took money that wasn't his, and I helped him hide it. When it all began to fall apart, I begged him to disappear to protect you both from what would follow. He refused, so Maya did what I couldn't. A drop of rain landed on the paper, spreading the ink slightly. He ran to the river. Maya called for help. I told her she did the right thing, but she's never believed it. When I saw how she carried that guilt, I wrote to her every month, trying to give her reasons to forgive me. I never wrote to you because I thought silence would spare you, but silence only grows heavier, doesn't it? The words blurred again. If you are reading this, I am gone. I want you to know I loved him and I loved you both, but differently. You with hope, her with gratitude. When you find these letters, do not keep them. Burn them by the river. Let what's past finally rest. The letter ended there. No signature this time. Only a pressed violet, nearly identical to the one she'd found under her pillow. Clara folded it slowly, her fingers damp with rain. She whispered, barely audible, she knew we'd both come back. Maya finally turned, her eyes glistening. She always knew how to pull us together even when she was gone. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The storm moved closer, thunder rolling across the valley. The smell of wet soil filled the air. Clara crouched by the riverbank. One by one, she took the letters from the box, struck a match, and watched the flames catch. The paper curled, blackened, then lifted away as ash. The smoke rose between them, gray ribbons twisting toward the darkening sky. Maya knelt beside her, their shoulders brushed. They didn't look at each other, but they didn't move apart either. When the last letter burned, Clara dropped the tin box into the river. The current carried it quickly, swallowed by the bend. For a long time, they watched the water. Then Clara said quietly, she didn't ask for forgiveness. She gave it. Maya nodded. That's all she ever wanted for us. The rain began to fall, soft, cleansing, almost warm. Clara tilted her face upward, eyes closed. For the first time in months, she felt her breath settle. She would never know if the figure she'd seen the night before had been real or simply memory standing watch. But when she turned to leave, the wind shifted, and faintly beneath the sound of the river came a voice she could almost recognize, gentle, certain, and free. Go home, my girls. Thanks for watching. Subscribe and visit the channel for more real-life stories.